Hello, nice to see you again. My name is Lauren Heistad, author to the book SOULworks Trilogy, Homecoming. Now, I was noticing today that the next chapter has a little bit different format than usual. So I thought I would explain my chapters yet again for somebody just tuning in. My entire book is divided into segments in each chapter. It usually starts with a story, a personal story that I've worked through, understandings that I've had because of experiences. That's basically what the first part of the chapter is. Then it moves into more of a teaching component, or just even side notes after I'm done telling the story. Just kind of this is what that meant to me. Guidance. And then the last part is a Your Move section that is encouraging people to learn how to activate, evolve, and master their own soul works, which I believe is the goal to life, to learn how to navigate this beautiful planet that we reside on and learn how to better meet our soul, from a conscious perspective and walk through life aware. It's a game changer. Okay, but this chapter is different. That's why I bring it up in the first place. This chapter is more of teachings. There's the odd chapter like that. And it's because sometimes some of the previous chapters have kind of way too much going on. So I've added another chapter to explain a few things. And that's what this one is about. Chapter 41. It's called The Heart of the Matter. And picks up with teachings after the chapter Abomination, basically. Okay, so I find it interesting that while submerged in a deep slumber and watching the suicide attempt go down, I asked the dark force that was attacking Sarah that night to pull its soul energy up out of its ass. I did. That was my instant reaction. And I pay attention to my instant reactions. They're actually pretty important. Now, I have a theory for why I said that. I do. I can read anything about a person just by looking at their chakra system. I can. It is like working with a map to show where they are in regards to their individual balanced state and soul path. And just to reiterate here, that's not in a judgment type way. That's just for my own understanding as to how events happen, what causes the trigger, and where do we go? How do we learn how to improve upon how we show up in the world, right? And that's a teaching for all of us. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. It's an awareness that came in after I've had a few experiences, one where I was being the one sending not so great vibes, and then the being on the receiving end of what that also feels like. So it's understanding, and it's compassion, and it's learning how to work through this together. So don't ever think that I'm pointing fingers, and don't ever think that I don't always forgive anyone for their state of awareness at any one given time, because we all do it. We're at that point in history where we're just trying to learn how to move through that and become enlightened through that awareness and then navigate it at a way deeper conscious level, right? Follow? Okay. Just wanted to be clear. All right, so each individual chakra has a mind of its own. It does. Reacting to our environment and emotional state of being by opening and closing at any given moment and in any given situation in life. Predominantly, however, each chakra will hold the vibration and size of our typical reality and thought forms. Make sense? So it can expand and contract depending on what situation we're put into, but then also on a more consistent level, it vibrates at our more predominant state of being. Okay? Okay. So, if we are going through a rough experience, we tend to close down and narrow our chakras without even realizing. We do. And on the flip side, when life is joyful, and we are in the flow of our soul energy, our chakras appear to be more open and full of zeal. Some chakras can be wide open, while others are more reserved and subdued. Those who have experienced great trauma and sorrow in their life will oftentimes completely shut down the flow in one area of their being without even realizing it. Depending on how much flow has been restricted, emotional and health issues can begin to develop. Within this blueprint, it is possible to tell where the trauma occurred, as well as bring healing and inner peace to that experience and state of mind. Okay, so within each chakra, there are two flows of energy, predominantly. One of giving and one of receiving. To become a fully balanced person, I don't think I've met one yet, so don't think I'm being holier than holy here. Just saying. If that is the goal, to learn how to be a fully balanced person, not only do we need to work at opening these centers up and expanding their potential, but there needs to be an equal flow of giving and receiving in all areas of our life. Body, mind, soul. So when someone is completely balanced in the flow of giving and receiving, their chakras will be fully open and yet feel as though completely submerged in calming stillness. True. When you take the time to sense the energy, you can feel a distinct push, pull, or inner calm, or closed, right? From each energy wheel, denoting the level of balance in each. Furthermore, the chakras extend out to become our aura. Of course they do. They're our aura. So if one chakra is more open and vibrant than all others, this will be reflected in the overall color we radiate. And to think, these systems, these amazing systems, automatically work. Just like any other organ in the body, it automatically works without our conscious awareness. So can you imagine our world and what it would be when we all start to become consciously aware of our balanced states of being and energy flows? It'd be amazing, wouldn't it? This is a world and reality I strive to achieve. Until then, and probably forevermore, we're all a work in progress. And that's okay. Do you understand me? That's okay. In fact, staying within a balanced state is always a work in progress. There, good. I'm glad to see I reiterated that. It is like working a muscle or achieving physical agility. Once it's accomplished, that doesn't mean you're done, does it? No. It is still a state we need to work within to maintain. So our growth is always exponential, and the chakra system is no different. It's no different. There's always a micro to the macro that extends infinitely as our soul's signatures continue to evolve and grow. For the chakras, this moves from the physical development of our human self to the soul development of our spiritual self, to the spiritual development of our universal self, and on it goes. For now, though, we're going to focus on the soul development aspect of just being human. Okay, so a few years back, I began to notice. As I said, I notice a lot of things. I'm an observer. I like to understand how things work. So if I see something that feels, that pulls my soul's attention, I will learn what it's about. Truth. Okay, so I began to notice that there were octaves of development within the 7 primary chakras. This vibrational reality reminds me of keys to the piano. It does. There being 7 primary keys that continue to repeat themselves but move up in vibration as we evolve, octave by octave, within our own development. Within our own development. It is a personal journey. It is. To keep it simple, what I started to notice was that I could see someone's chakra system being very open and balanced in all ways, and yet developmentally, in terms of soul energy, they could be very low or high in vibrational awareness. It was like having someone who could be very successful in all areas of life, and yet their overall demeanor and actions are not always based on higher vibrations of love and compassion. Right? We've seen that happen many times. We can be successful in all kinds of ways and yet still hold that lower vibrational reality. So instead, I found people with their chakras wide open, and yet their actual soul energy further down in basic instincts of fight or flight. Fight or flight, that's the root chakra octave. Or perhaps a little further up into dreams and passions, which is the sacral octave, and yet still very self-centered in many perspectives. With this discovery, I realized that our traditional anchor of the soul position is always moving and expanding. So again, I'm not being judgmental. I'm not. To those whose soul resides at the lower vibration, and in fact, know that I've been in fight or flight myself for like lifetimes. So I'm only observing the reality and becoming acutely aware of these different levels of existence. This observation alone brings compassion and understanding to why there are so many thoughts, beliefs, and ways of living in our world. Right? If you're always scared of being found or in a fight or flight situation, of course your existence and your way and what you're tuning into is going to be different. That's just the way it is. Okay. So, within our human development, there are the 7 primary chakras. We've already talked about those. As we balance and work our way through these 7, we expand our awareness and achieve a balanced existence, body, mind, and soul. As we accomplish one level of advancement, we move up an octave. And then the process begins again. Which is why it always feels like we're on a perpetual loop of growth, right? Our soul always continues to develop on both sides of the veil. On both sides. Many people don't realize that, but it's true. As we exist in both physical and non-physical form, we continue to evolve. When we choose to come back to Earth, we start at our appropriate level of soul development, bringing forward the vibrational knowledge we have already achieved. Although usually within an unconscious level of awareness at one point, and then eventually at a conscious one. On this path, we can literally move through lifetime after lifetime, working to open all 7 chakras within the root octave alone. It could take lifetimes in 1 octave of development. It is very possible, in fact, for someone to have developed enough at the root octave to connect with their guides and angels and deceased loved ones. Of course we can, because at every octave exists the 7 primary, which also includes third eye and crown chakra, right? So of course we can do that. But even so, even if we had those chakras open, their soul energy would still reside in the lower vibration of the root octave. That's true. This is not to say it's wrong. It's not to say it's wrong. This is what you need to understand. It's to say it's a very important and imperative step toward our soul development. And yet one that needs to be understood. Understood and transcended before we can achieve full enlightenment. Those who have fully developed chakras, but whose soul energy still resides in that root octave, have a much different perspective on life than those who have moved up even just 1 octave. That's a fact. Focused on level of primary needs being met, for example, there's often an instinctual but basic energy of existence. Okay, and before I go on any further, I need you to understand. I'm not stereotyping, nor am I saying that this is always the formula. This is a roadmap to understand. Using the best examples I had at the time to explain it. Okay? Okay, so the God perspective from the root octave of development is a fear-based, judgmental God. If I were to relate it to biblical terms, I would say the Old Testament. The Old Testament falls into this category. People from this octave of perspective are only worried about getting through life. Although many of us are based on that no matter where we are, right? See what I mean? You gotta have an open view when I'm categorizing this to just make it simplified for you to understand. Deal? Okay. So they may appreciate basic and extended comforts of living, but still find this world hard to navigate and are more than happy to leave it behind. That's true. They want to move into the heavenly realms. Can't wait to get there kind of perspective, right? Can't wait to get through this tough version here on earth so that they can transcend to another space. Okay, so then we move the anchor of the soul up to the sacral octave. Okay, so we've taken one step up to the sacral octave, and again, we as souls work to balance all 7 chakras within this state of being. This vibrational octave focuses on personal development and creative endeavors. Inventions start to improve. That's true. People in this octave start being way more inventive, and our own creative genius starts to flow. The God perspective from this level of development includes working through someone else in a position of authority or power to do our bidding, praying or saving for us, or perhaps filling that role for others. No judgment. We've all been there. I'm just explaining it, right? Okay. If I were to relate this to biblical terms, I would say the New Testament falls in this category. This octave is slightly more empowering than the primal instincts. Of course it is. But from a spiritual perspective, the core system would still be heavily based on pre-existing structural beliefs or doctrines more than soulful evolution. There's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of resistance to change from this state of being. Actually, at any state of being. But this one in particular, because it's become comfortable. It's become a comfortable way of life for a very long time. Someone fully balanced within this traditional anchor of the soul vibration in the 3rd dimension of reality has found their own unique ways to navigate this world, have expressed and followed their dreams into existence, can often have a very strong spiritual connection, and are very self-sufficient. There's still a bit of fight or flight, right? A fight or flight mentality or aggressiveness in pushing their own agendas or running away from their problems. Those from this perspective also tend to rely on others to make them happy or do the legwork for them. In addition, although we may experience a spiritual connection as part of a greater whole, most of our actions and reactions are still based on the individual I perspective instead of the greater we perspective. Meaning our actions only take into consideration what is good for ourselves and sometimes our immediate family. From this vibration, From this vibration, we tend to overlook how our thoughts and actions are affecting other people around us. Or worse yet, we don't even care. Don't even care. Okay. So that's the first 2. Then we move our anchor of the soul up to the solar plexus octave. Not just chakra, octave. Because remember, each octave has all 7 chakras. And become much more aware of our ability to co-create our world from a bigger perspective than just basic needs. In my opinion, this is where the bulk of society has just transitioned to. It has. And I would compare this move to what people are dubbing the 4th dimensional reality. If I were to compare this level to biblical terms, I would say it falls under the New World category. From this perspective, we are learning that our thoughts create our reality to a much bigger degree than previously understood. Right? We're definitely in that. We find the universe to be a magical haven of possibilities as we aggressively project our thoughts and intentions out into the world. We're learning. Vision boards, inner power, and widened thoughts about what else is possible begin to surface, which is pretty cool. The God perspective becomes much more loving, and away from fear-based beliefs. We become more empowered as individuals and no longer rely on anyone else to save us. Yay. Within this octave of development, we view the lives of Yeshua and Buddha as examples to aspire towards and become centered in the understanding that we are all able to achieve this state of being. Gotta love that. We understand we hold the blueprint within ourselves to become enlightened while here on earth. We grasp and begin to practice how we can effectively influence the world around us with our thoughts and intentions. Prosperity and abundance are key words at this level. Spiritually, people have an appreciation for source energy and strive to utilize this force to improve their personal lives. The focus has started to move from the perspective of the I to more empowered collective I perspective, with each person effectively and consciously creating their own reality. Those within this level of development have yet to learn to manifest for the greater good, but they have started. They have started to stretch that important muscle and have learned they are capable of creating change on a personal level. In terms of emotions, this level of being tends to express all emotions and embrace the ego and spiritual part of their soul. We have to learn how to embrace it first, don't we? Already at this state, we can become aware of our soul energy being called to help another one in need. Through our dreams and visions, we begin to create healing for any spirit that requires help. That's amazing, isn't it? There's many of us that have moved into that awareness. From there's more. It's exciting. From there, we move to the fifth dimensional reality, where the anchor of our soul resides in the heart octave, in the heart. From my perspective, this is what is meant by heaven on earth. Heaven on earth. Our spiritual and soul potential grounded here on earth. From my I already read that. I'll read it again. From my perspective, this is what is meant by heaven on earth, as referenced in the Bible, and is the midpoint between our physical self and our spiritual self. There are many people in the world aware of the lingo involved with making this evolutionary jump. There are very few people as of yet actually practicing it. That's okay. We're just progress bar, right? Progress bar to our own evolution. It's all good. To be at this state of being, we need to be heart-centered and co-creating not only for ourselves, but also for others, for the greater good. Selfish, egotistical ways of the I mentality are starting to be a thing of the past, And we focus more on the we mentality of collective consciousness. Not just for ourselves, but for the greater good. The God perspective from this vibration is focused on conscious creation in a heartfelt manner. People within this state of being are taking responsibility. They are for all their thoughts and intentions on a more regular basis. Not just during times when they are at church, in mountain pose, in meditative state, or working with healing energy. There's a balance between giving of ourself and giving to others. A balance between the spiritual and physical world. Conscious and unconscious. Those who reside at this level have achieved heartfelt balance. There is no random swing anymore. There's been random swings, hasn't there? But that starts to dissipate. So not quite as volatile swings between the I and the we, but rather an equilibrium of us. That sounds better, doesn't it? Dependent, yet independent. Oneness, yet individually unique. A solid co-creator of this world, somewhere between residing solely within the Godhead and the individual self. Heaven on earth. I'll be right back. Okay. The next stage of our evolution places the anchor of our soul within the throat chakra. This state of being is achieved through inner reflection and a fine balance between voicing the inner knowledge and compassionately observing the changes, while allowing every soul to unfold at their own pace and development. Of course, why wouldn't we? When a baby comes into this world, do we insist it become an adult within a day? And when we plant a seed, do we stand out there watching it and insisting that it grows strong and vibrant instantly? No. Cycles. We are within cycles, the whole earth. Okay? So, no judgments. To reiterate, allow every soul to unfold at their own pace of development. Here we become acutely aware of individual growth patterns, the cycles of time, and the continued expansion of all things. It's glorious, isn't it? Completely submerged in the we mentality of the collective conscious, people at this level monitor and reflect on what they are adding to the world. They monitor their conscious thoughts and emotions, striving to always move them to a higher state of being. The ego starts to drift out of reality. It does, as they start speaking straight from their soul. Within this shift, people notice some memories begin to fade. Not because they're becoming absent-minded. Nope, because they are moving more fully into the now of their higher self. Soul energy is always kind, compassionate, gentle, and loving. In biblical terms, they not only know how important it is to be patient and kind as cited in Corinthians, but practice it always. Ascending the anchor of our soul even further, we move into the third eye octave of vibrational being. People who have achieved this level of soul development start having access to all that is. Their visions, inspirations, and insights are at a much higher collective level. Remembering that we can all achieve, you got to remember this, we can all achieve an open third eye even at the root chakra octave. So at the third eye octave, this state of being is more godlike than human. It is. The guidance received focuses on humanity's well-being and helping the collective whole transcend upward back into this euphoric state. Oftentimes, these souls are asked to make decisions for the collective good or to see aspects others do not have access to. This is because the level achieved has been proven time and time again to focus on the vibration of love. When decisions made are always focused on love, the level of personal responsibility towards evolution and the collective whole becomes greater. Those who feel this state of responsibility, yet are not coming from a place of full unconditional love and compassion, are not actually coming from that higher state of awareness. It's actually coming from ego in one of the lower octaves. Truth. Following your own inner calling without compassion for others is a lower vibration. Following your own inner calling while treating others respectfully and equally is a higher octave vibration. Thankfully, those who are coming from a place of ego have limited and technically monitored influence on an overall vibration and decisions of this planet, despite what they may tell themselves. Truth. There is an overall force that helps to keep things in as much balance as possible while giving everyone the ability to utilize free will while here on this earth. The last level we will discuss is the crown octave. It's pretty high, isn't it? To achieve this state of being is to live completely from your soul energy, with your individual ego no longer getting involved at all. It is still within the we mentality, but has become a unified I. From this expansive level of being, your soul transcends through an alchemy process of your higher self into the full physical embodiment of your soul. During this phase of development, the mind chatter is completely silenced and replaced by inner peace. All incoming information through the physical mind has now moved into clear guidance and insights from your soul. Those who reach this state of being literally transform away from the individual ego back into the completeness of their own divine soul energy, and then even further into complete oneness with all things. People at this state of mind are true alchemists. They are. At this state, you can truly change water into wine, dark into light, disease into harmony, age into youth, and even lead into gold. In terms of biblical references, I would call this state of mind the Holy Grail. This energetic way of living is like coming straight from Source. We all have the light and power within us to achieve this state of being. We do. We all have the capacity to live from the perspective of pure, unconditional love radiating from all that is. Someday, we will all move back into this euphoric state of mind. Full enlightenment, or gnosis, is achieved when we completely understand our divinity, the state of this world, how we got here, our contributions to it, and demonstrate a heart-centered conscious effort to achieve and restore balance. Wisdom and love-based conscious actions and reactions are key. They're key to embody and maintain this state of being. What we are accomplishing as we move up in awareness and vibrational levels of development is to pull more and more of our soul energy down here in the Earth's dimension in physical form, within the highest octave of development, hence fully utilizing and embodying our complete soul potential. This is directly related to discussions in my previous chapters on utilizing the full capacity of our brain through our soul mind. Those who manage to achieve this state of being start to glow and radiate love, at first only when entranced in their spiritual growth. Eventually, full gnosis is achieved at every single moment of every single day, as their soul energy becomes an active and consistent part of all they think, say, and do. Evolving your SOULworks. I have a personal goal of heaven on earth for all of humanity. Big dreams I realize, but that's just how I tend to roll. That's the heart octave. We don't have to be godlike, we just have to be heart-centered, right? Keep that in mind. Heaven on earth has been talked about, dreamed about, prophesied about, and even fought about over the ages. I'm not professing any one thought or religious belief here, but I do enjoy making observations and developing my own understandings and viewpoints of this world. And it is that, it's my own viewpoints. Here are my thoughts on the internal and external shifts required to reach enlightenment, to reach the enlightened state of heaven on earth. Okay, I believe we're all divine. Of course we are. Most times. I believe we all hold the power within ourselves to restore balance in our own individual worlds, and then collectively as a whole. Co-creating our world is not a New Age term. Well, it is. But truthfully, we have been operating on this system since the beginning of time. Maybe you remember the symbolic story? In the beginning, there was light. God created the heavens and earth through thoughts. And with each new thought, a new component was added, such as stars, the sun, the earth, and the moon. Next came plants, animals, humans. Fast forward a bit. Then came humanity's fall from grace. Then we worked to restore our original glory and obtain heaven on earth. We open up the seals that restore the balance, chakra seals, and then we all live in perfect harmony. Amen. Not quite that easy, but hey, girl can dream. Because we're all a micro component of the macro, I have another version of this tale of creation and evolution as it relates to the chakras. Imagine the crown chakra, octave, located at the top of your head, representing all that is. This energy center is our connection to spirit and our all-knowing capacity to access full levels of enlightenment and divine grace. Now, for argument's sake, and it is argument's sake, I'm going to call this chakra Adam. I am. Both men and women, however, started out on Earth with this octave fully open and our connection to the divine fully operational. As we began to evolve, our focus shifted from being spiritually connected to becoming emotionally connected, and finally all the way down to being physically connected in this earth. During the golden ages of our past, all these chakras were open and functional. Then we started to disconnect from the divine, and our focus became more on our physical reality only. Our physical reality and connection to this world are represented by that root octave. The root chakra signifies our primary needs and our connection to Mother Earth. Again, for argument's sake, we're going to call that Eve. Although it may have been understood as our fall from grace. What it really represents was a very, very long process of becoming less and less connected to all that is. Typically, what this looks like in terms of human development is the blocking out of intuitive senses, becoming more and more ego-driven, and being primarily centered on our own survival. Sound familiar? Over time, humanity has started to move back up the chakras into awareness. Basically, once our physical needs were met, once we felt safe, we started focusing on our wants and desires of this world, represented by the sacral octave and traditionally the anchor of the soul position for quite some time now. Quite some time. From there, we are evolving to understand how to manifest our desires and starting to co-create our reality. This is represented by the solar plexus, as well as the return of the sun within us. Heart-based living comes next. That one's my goal. And to me, this octave represents the what? The new vibration we are moving into as we continue our ascent back to source energy. It is the age of Aquarius. And within this heart center, the message is to love yourself and to love all others as equals. Now, here's the interesting thing. Although everyone is on their own path and their own octave development, globally, the entire universe is also beginning to shift into this upward trend. Furthermore, I believe we have reached the tipping point where the majority of humanity has moved their soul energy into the solar plexus octave and are at least at some level understanding to start co-creating their own world consciously. We've always been creating it. From here, we will enter the state of perfect balance that resides within the heart and is the midpoint between the physical and spiritual world. That's the sweet spot, guys. Then we bring all our chakras further into expansion, and we will start speaking our truth more often and following our soul desires instead of human fears, while taking into account how we are influencing others. That's the important one. Next, our 6 senses will fully open back up to full awareness and connections. And voila, heaven is on earth. Yes, but not quite that easy. Understanding the concepts of vibrational growth is by no means an indication of successfully living within them. Conspiracy theories, blaming others, and further segregating between the us and them mentality will never work. This is a soul journey of growth, compassion, forgiveness, and understanding that comes with lifetimes of experience and soulful development. There are many souls in the past who have struggled to find the formula of achieving such a godly existence. However, it's not so much a formula as a state of being. The key to true alchemy of the soul is love. What I find intriguing about the collective conscious is that the concept of critical mass. This means that when more than 50% of the population have successfully moved into this new vibrational existence and stay within it on a continual basis, the rest of the earth and soul energies move with that shift. This is what is happening as we collectively move into the 4th and 5th dimensions. As many light workers, humanitarians, and aware individuals gain momentum and stay with, at minimum, the solar plexus octave, the rest of the world also begins to experience the same existence. I have watched and experienced various initiations and personal achievements and ongoing dedication to bettering one's own development that have created large shifts in people and moved them from one octave to the next. I've witnessed it many times. For myself, I know the process unfolds as I have passed various lessons and phases in my life. I've also observed how we bounce. We bounce in and out of the octaves as we are developing in that area. We must continuously demonstrate that we reside at the vibrational frequency before our soul solidly stays within that frame of existence. Moving up an octave includes continuous demonstrations of love and compassion, even when faced with adversity and battle. When love is chosen again and again, your vibration and level of awareness expands. In this respect, I believe the symbolism in Revelation depicts each of the individual 7 octave seals that need to be opened, and the symbolic spiritual events that transpire in order to take on such a leap of evolutionary existence. Revelations 22:14. Blessed are those who wash their robes, so that they may have the right to the tree of life, and that they may enter the city by the gates. And just to be clear, open door policy, everyone always welcome. Okay, each person has their own path of development. They each have their own path and their own way of achieving this state of being. The more I work to explain the teachings, the more I realize there are no words to capture and express the journey of the soul. The more I watch this world toss and turn through the birthing pains of beautiful change, the more I realize our actions are the way we treat people way more profound and reflective of our soul energy's growth than the mere words that reverberate from our lips. Of course it is. The more I embrace this miraculous life that is unfolding before me, the more I realize that heart-centered intentions for the greater good are key. They're key to changing the world. It's not enough to talk your talk. You must be willing to walk it. The more I see and experience everyone around the world becoming more aware of how connected we truly are, the more I insist and continue to repeat the blaring fact that knowing we are connected no longer sufficient. We must start acting like we are. Sometimes there's just no words to express my gratitude for those who truly come from a heart-centered space and strive to make a difference in this world, while continuing to help those who have yet to see and experience this profound light within themselves. Your actions are far more powerful than any words of wisdom ever spoken. Don't ever forget that. It is true that in the beginning there was word. It was sound and vibration that helped create this world in which we live. However, words are fleeting unless they are backed with heartfelt actions and intentions. When push comes to shove, can you remain heart-centered? I encourage you to learn to find this focus. It is your energetic footprint echoing within your soul that truly holds the power to create momentum for miraculous change. Okay, your move. Find your vibe. Life reminds me of a video game. It does, with all the kinds of levels to work through before moving to the next. And they're supposed to be fun, by the way. Take time to sit with your own energy and monitor what octave your soul energy primarily resides in, without judgment to yourself or others. Within this state of mind, notice what individual chakras are still expanding and growing, because we all have them. Within what level of development? Being aware of and participating in heartfelt conscious actions to facilitate change helps to shift your energy to the next state of being. Next, be responsible for you. Remember that we are all responsible for our own growth. The overall success of your life's work depends on what you as an individual energetically put into the world. Ultimately, we are still here as individuals. We're still here as individuals to do our own work. Even though collectively, we all work within source energy. Are you taking responsibility for your own abundance or lack? Or are you waiting for the universe to deliver? Are you carrying your own load? Or are you expecting the world to carry it for you? Are you looking to point blame and negativity? Or are you taking responsibility for how you choose to act and react? Are you placing your faith in the process? Or are you thinking you could do better or lesser job than anyone else? Are you expanding your spiritual development? Or are you choosing to be narrow-minded? Are you focused solely on your own well-being? Or are you coming from the heart in all that you do? Dedicate time to your own growth. Very important. Any time you choose to better yourself, whether it is through reading a book, taking a class, communicating with spirit, or helping someone in need, you are adding to your own growth and development. There's no specific formula. There's not. Only time and dedication to becoming all that you can be. And the desire to even do that. The important part is actively taking responsibility for your own development and energetic vibration. There's no right or wrong level of development to be at, by the way. A caterpillar is not wrong. It is just a different stage in its life cycle. Almost through. Remove judgments. Remove them. Soul development is uniquely experienced and evolved. I gotta start that again. Soul development is as uniquely experienced and evolved as your own unique personality and lifestyle. There's no right or wrong way to further develop your spirit and bring balance to your own body, mind, and soul. Sorry, I was just realizing I say soul development is as unique as your own personal life and style. There's still people working on judgments on even that, so we got a ways to go. Anyways, as previously expressed, I've watched the individual energy of all kinds of people with all kinds of backgrounds, religious beliefs, spiritual practices, and understandings. I've watched them. Observed. No judgment, just observing. It is only the level of love, fully expressed within their soul, that truly opens all chakras and moves an individual into self-mastery. It does not matter whether you pray, send healing energy, walk in nature, meditate, or utilize any number of modalities and options available for spiritual growth. What matters the most is not what you utilize, but the reason and capacity to which you utilize it. Secondly, do not judge. Don't judge where anyone's soul is on the path of development based on their current life conditions, closed minds, vastly opened minds, traumatic experiences, lucrative experiences, or the like. We play this game of life for our own development. Sometimes people choose to learn some really hard lessons and keep their awareness at a minimum because they're striving to push their soul even harder. Did you ever think of that? This does not mean their souls are not developed. This means each individual has developed a life plan that is uniquely their own. Only the energetic footprint of the octaves truly shows the vastness of a soul's growth. And lastly, work for the collective. Those who spend all their time on their own development, shielding themselves from those with lower or perceived lower energies, and avoiding situations where people are in need, are only fooling themselves into thinking they are moving up into the next octave of awareness. Love leaves no one behind, remember? This does not mean you need to push your ideas on people. It means being respectful of all states of mind and doing your best to see everyone as equally deserving of experiencing and achieving oneness. By segregating from the pack, you risk becoming a spiritual snob. You do. Observing the differences is fine. That's how we learn. Giving yourself time and space away from lower vibration is fine. But permanently removing yourself entirely by thinking you are superior to others is neither fine nor practical. By doing this very action, you are helping the world stay in duality instead of moving into love and unity. By staying within the intentions of your own development, you yourself are staying within the individualized I mentality. Food for thought. Thank you. I realize that was a long chapter, but I appreciate the opportunity to explain soulful development. I hope you give yourself all kinds of love and compassion as you work through your own. Thanks for joining me.